Hello, hello, my lovely exile who has been under a rock since 2019. You have not been paying attention to anything related to Path of Exile 2 since that initial announcement at ExileCon. Well, a lot has changed. Of course, there has been delay after delay for the game, but finally, it is releasing into early access on November 15th, 2024. Finally, the golden age is here. We're ready to play it. But if you'd like to be a little bit informed on the biggest changes to the game since 2019, well, this is the video for you. Let's start out with the biggest one. First of all, it is a completely new game. Yeah, that's right. Back in 2019, Path of Exile 2 was supposed to be Path of Exile 1's 4.0 expansion. A absolutely tremendous addition to the game, overhauling skill systems, overhauling graphics, animations, adding a secondary campaign to the game. That has all changed. Now Path of Exile 2 has grown into something else, something different, evolved the entire ARPG genre, and Grinding Gear Games is going to be developing Path of Exile 2 beside Path of Exile 1. They'll be running two ARPGs at the same time. A legendary feat unachievable by any other studio in the past. If anyone can do it, it's Grinding Gear Games. Number 2, movement has changed massively as well. Yes, Path of Exile 2 remains a point-and-click game. You can control your character using your mouse and use your abilities on your keyboard, but now there's also WASD in the game too. They completely redesigned the game with WASD in mind. All the character abilities, all the classes, all the maps, the monster fights, and the like to allow people to play with this pinpoint movement and not have to use the mouse all the time. It was the primary reason that they delayed the launch of the early access to November of this year, and it was well worth the wait given everyone's reception to WASD. People are huge fans of it, and I cannot wait to play with a bunch of WASD once more. The next massive change also kind of relates, and it has to do with consoles. Back in 2019, the method of how you were going to play Path of Exile 2 on consoles was unclear. Well, in the past 5 years, they have completely invested in their console development. They have its own team. It has a game director dedicated to just consoles. Console gameplay will be cross-play, cross-progression, and couch co-op will be in the game as well, alongside full support for controllers, of course, on PC and PS5, Mac, and Xbox. This is huge. The game is designed with consoles in mind. It's not an afterthought like it was in Path of Exile 1. And as someone who has personally played on a PS5, it runs smoothly and it feels very good. Additionally, for people who want to play on their PC with a controller, but perhaps with a mouse and keyboard for inventory management, if it feels better using those devices, you will be able to do that. There's going to be a seamless switching between controller and mouse and keyboard once the game releases. I'd also like to stress that cross-play and cross-progression means that everyone shares the same trade marketplace, and that leagues will no longer die as they do in Path of Exile 1 much faster on consoles than they do on PC. Next up, last we heard Path of Exile 2 was not gaining any new classes, just ascendancy classes, those prestige classes on top of the regular set. Well, with Path of Exile 2, we are getting the 6 core classes from Path of Exile 1 and 6 brand new classes as well. The Monk, the Druid, the Huntress, the Sorceress, the Warrior, and the Mercenary. As with everything in Path of Exile 2, you will be able to use any skill gem across any of the classes. The only things that are unique to each of these classes are their starting positions on the tree, which they actually share with their mirror, and their ascendancy classes, of which each class will have 3. Nothing else is locked to class, not gear, not special passives, none of that stuff. You get to use basically everything on any class. You can be a witch wielding the machine gun crossbows. You can be a warrior wielding a two-handed mace that can also transform into a bear. Everything is possible in Path of Exile 2. Next up, one thing is going to 6, not like the classes. we will be having 6 acts instead of 7 in Path of Exile 2. In 2019, when it was first announced, they said this would be a brand new 7-act campaign that has now been squished to 6. We don't know exactly why. Perhaps they combined some acts, perhaps they cut out part of the story. We will find out soon enough, but for now, Path of Exile 2 will have 6 acts and that expansive endgame. Then this is probably the bulkiest change from 2019 to 2024, and that's everything to do with skills. Back in 2019, skills worked much the same way they do in Path of Exile 1. The only big difference back then was the fact that you no longer linked skills inside of gear. Your gear held the gems, and then you linked support gems inside a specific gem cutting screen. That is completely gone. In the Path of Exile of today, gear has no sockets. Gear is completely unrelated to gems. Gems are attached to your character. When you start, you will have 9 gem slots, and within those slots, you will slot gems and gems that support them. You don't get gems just from dropping anymore. You drop uncut skill and support gems. Using these uncut gems, you right-click on them and you open up a massive skill screen. This skill screen is sorted by weapon type as well as specific archetypes such as elemental spells or occult spells, and there is a tab for all skills too. With this uncut gem, you can choose any of the skills in the game that are at the tier of the uncut gem or below, as uncut gems and skills are now created at a tier level. Arc might be a tier 1 lightning skill, while Ancestral War Chi Totem might be a tier 11 skill. The gems that you cut come pre-linked, but you can also up the links on these gems using various forms of jeweler's orbs, changing the number of links inside a gem from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. Plus, there are no longer colors in the game. Yes, the gems have color, but you don't need to match specific colors to specific sockets in your gems. That is completely gone from the game. Support gems basically work the same way as skill gems, but there's one massive change I'd like to point out in this video, and there are a lot of smaller changes too that I'm not overgoing here, but this one is huge. You may only use one instance of each support gem across your entire character. For example, the greater multiple projectile support gem that allows you to shoot a bunch more projectiles, you will only be able to use that in one of your skills. You cannot use it in other skills. This means that Path of Exile 2 will not have repeat support gems in any character build at all. This also means that the number of support gems in Path of Exile 2 is going to be absolutely tremendous, and as we've been seeing in these various demos that have been coming out, they are pumping out the unique support gems at rapid speed. Next up, back in 2019, we barely had even seen the passive skill tree, and they just murmured a bit about how they really wanted to reinvent the way it worked. Well, more and more, especially over the past few weeks, we've seen glimpses of the current Path of Exile 2 skill tree, and the changes are tremendous. What are they doing differently here? Well, it's mostly the design of the clusters. The clusters that you are pathing through represent the skills or the abilities that you are buffing. That is not only beautiful artistically, but it's also intelligent. It showcases to new players, if I would like to invest in sword skills, well, I'm going to go to that sword-based cluster. And that sounds silly, it sounds simple, but it is a great design choice. Additionally, they like these passive skill tree to help you specialize in different avenues for your character, not completely define your character and hold a bunch of the power. Most of that power should be coming from the gear and the skills that you are using, not the passive skill tree. They've taken a lot of the stuff that everybody feels that they need to invest into to make a powerful character completely out of the PoE2 skill tree. For example, life is no longer on the skill tree. Not everybody has to always path through life. The stuff on PoE2 skill tree helps you define your character, make them better at what they're already good at, not make them excellent in different areas that you're not already specializing in. There's also a bunch of wild new keystones on the tree, such as Giant Blood, which allows you to wield two-handed weapons in a single hand. There's a bunch of crazy stuff incoming. Next up, they have massively changed how item drops will work in Path of Exile 2. You've already seen little glimpses at it in Path of Exile 1, where they're bringing down the number of items dropping and just upping the rarity. Well, that same sort of system is occurring in Path of Exile 2 at a much greater rate and impact. It's happening with everything, whether it be currency, whether it be weapons or armor. Everything is being slimmed down, and they're making sure the gear that you're getting on the ground, the items that you're picking up from the ground, are valuable. They're achieving this by implementing a tier-based system behind the scenes, where your items drop at various different tiers. They'll have better affixes, better rolls, they'll be higher value currency, and all the like. Instead of just giving you a huge blast of items on the ground that completely clogs up your screen, makes it so that you really only look at 1%, if even that, of the items, they're making it so that the pile on the ground is a pile you actually want to sift through, or pick all up. Honorable mention to the absolutely phenomenal graphical and animation and sound design of Path of Exile 2. It hasn't really changed per se from 2019, but they sure have taken a step up in production value, and tied together with all these fundamental gameplay system changes and this stellar development team. I cannot wait to get my hands on this game on November 15th. Please let me know in the comments below if I missed any fundamental change to the game since 2019 for all those people who haven't been paying attention to Path of Exile 2 for all this time. And if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe to the channel for more Path of Exile 2 content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.